I'm not sure how that kind of SEO magic was happening, but anyway, Stack Overflow, very helpful. Android snippets, if there's a snippet that matches, that I found that to be pretty good. And then there's a number of other places out there. Yeah?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Thank you. All right, any other suggestions for
There's a Google group that's huge, like 80,000 members or 40,000 members, something like that.
any of it?
Yeah, just search for Android development.
Does it have an archive?
Yes.
Okay.
Under Google Groups, search there.
Okay. Good suggestion.
And they prefer you ask the tougher questions, ones that don't get answered on Stack Overflow. So.
Ooh. Throwing down the gauntlet.
That's
Got
what
it.
they say.
Love it. All right. Let's talk about tools. Eclipse works. Most people use it. I really like IntelliJ. I like the code completion. I like the way that it works. I used it first. I'll admit it. I used it before I used Eclipse, and so I'm used to it now. That's probably the biggest reason. The free/community edition has everything you need for Android development. That didn't always used to be that way. So you can just go get their community edition, so you don't have to pay the outrageous $800 to get their non-free version. I'm using the 10.5, which was just released. I upgraded, hoping that it would fix a bug, and it didn't. 10.0 is probably good. I'd stay there because it's a little bit more stable until they kind of update it.
Is it built on Eclipse?
It's built in Java though. It's their own thing built from the ground up. They've actually started to do IntelliJ. They've started to take that same framework and produce versions for Ruby, for all kinds of things. They're really pretty good tools.
So Motorola also has some Eclipse plugin. I'm not sure you show that, but it's just it's called MotoDev. I mean, it's in the MotoDev Studio.
Okay.
And basically, they just they do some validation, extra validation for your app. They have like you can view your SQL databases in an editor. It adds that add-on, and a few others.
Way to go to Motorola. It's too bad they're not doing very well right now. All right, emulator. So this, in the comparison with iPhone. On the iPhone, developing to the emulator is the fastest way to develop. On Android, it's the opposite. The fastest way is to develop to a device. I like to use the emulator for compatibility testing. So you want to test whether or not your app runs really well on the 1.5 version of Android. Emulator works really good. The new snapshotting thing, I recommend turning that on. That basically allows you to start. It treats it like a virtual machine because so the emulator in Android is the full OS, right? So it takes a little while to boot. So the snapshotting thing allows you to basically instantly come back to where you shut down. It means shutting down takes longer, but that's okay. Small price to pay for not taking 5 minutes to start up. And based on the Google I/O talk, they're doing a lot of stuff around this, which should hopefully be ready in the next year. I hate my Nexus 1. That is crap. I got my Nexus 1 and I'm like, why are people buying Android devices? The touch screen on it is absolutely awful. It doesn't work. Maybe it's just my device. I got a bad device. I don't know. I have a Motorola Zoom. It's pretty cool. It's very, very good hardware. I'd recommend maybe looking at if you're getting your first Android device, because you got to have an Android device for development, and using the emulator would just be too slow. Maybe look at Android or Virgin Mobile. They've got some Android devices now. You can get, it's month-to-month contract, so buy 1 monthly contract, good. Only costs you, less than $200, which is better than paying $600 for a Nexus 1. That sucks. Maybe something off eBay. Thought I'd mention cross-platform tools. Apple kind of banned them for iPhone last spring, but that's not longer true. So there are a number of them out there. I've never tried any of them, but they seem to be fairly, getting pretty good uptake, especially in the game arena. So Angry Birds is built with a cross-platform tool. Remember that kid down in Spanish Fort 14 built his that was also with one of these cross-platform. Corona. There you go. So yeah, so for games, I think that's totally the way I would go or look into if I was doing a game. I don't do games. I'm not that good of a graphics guy, so I don't know if anybody has any other suggestions for development kits that work pretty good for non-game stuff,
So, for non-game stuff.
or just in general.
So for the game stuff, Corona's pretty good.
Uh-huh.
You can download it and run and test everything for free, and when you go to publish, it's a yearly subscription type thing. But it uses OpenGL in the background, so it's really efficient. You know, it uses Box 2D, same stuff that Angry Birds is built on top of. But the downside is you can't integrate with third-party libraries, and you're limited to what they've implemented. So it is pretty restrictive. But
yeah, that's the main reason I've kind of stayed away from the cross-platform things, because that's going to restrict my ability to do interesting things, you know, with the latest and greatest APIs. So that's a bit of a challenge. We mentioned web apps. Whenever I do contract apps, and people say, "Hey, build it. Why don't we just build it as a web app?" Redbox is my favorite example of why not, because their app is wrong. When you it's completely web-based. When you tap on a button, it doesn't. There's a little bit of a lag. It just is not quite right. Also, I mean, so you have to adjust the design for every platform anyway, because, all right, we're Android folks. You don't use that little nav bar up top, right? This is an iPhoneism. On the iPhone, you're not allowed to actually stick a switch on a toolbar on the iPhone. Okay, it's technically impossible, but they're using the web, so they can do whatever they want. But it's a bad idea. I mean, so leads to kind of bad design. I would recommend some kind of a hybrid approach. They could have done a hybrid approach where they're grabbing from the web the content and inserting it maybe into web control and leave everything else. I mean, you could have written all this nav stuff in their app in like 2 days, right? But no, they had to do everything. Anyway, sorry, rant.
We're at time.
All right, time. All right.
Now, how much do you have left? And
I've got a couple slides. I'll go through it real fast. How's that?
so if anyone needs to take off, feel free.
I won't be offended. Differences, exception handling. Love exception handling on Android. Rocks. Reduce the number of crashes so that you can, instead of on iPhone, oh, I did something, whoop, boom, app's done. I hate that. Nice. I don't have to worry about memory as much as I do on the iPhone, so Android's much better that way. And Android does things differently in terms of UI. You need to keep that in mind when you're doing your design. They don't do that navigation back-forward stuff. There is no navigation bar. Android doesn't use the toolbar design pattern. They use kind of that menu button pop-up thing, right? So you got to make sure that you're taking that into account when you're doing your UI design. You got to deal with screen graphic sizes. It's a little bit different, but roughly the same. You just got to drop in different graphic sizes. User interface. This is all kind of basic stuff, which, based on everybody's introductions, kind of don't need to know that. Supposedly, there's a nice little designer tool that's under construction that's supposed to rock. That hopefully Google will get done this year. Is it out? Yeah, cool. Activities. This is something that's very different for Android in that your app consists of a bunch of activities instead of view controllers. So it's like a bunch of mini apps within your app. Very different. So you move between activities or screens instead of so they're like mini apps. So this was kind of a thing for me. You get activity stop-starts and not app stop-starts. So like I'm trying to track when my app as a whole stops and starts, and I can't because only the activity gets the trigger. Yeah, driving me nuts. Activities are declared in your Android manifest. Intents. This is the upside though of the activities, right? You get your you get to go and launch other stuff, right? So you want to open a PowerPoint with the Documents to Go app. You can do that. You just got to have your nice little intent. Make sure you get your mind type right. That's what I posted too. our favorite little Q&A site, Stack Overflow last night, getting the MIME type right. UI table view list activity is kind of the name for it. It's not quite as robust on Android, but you do have more flexibility in terms of controlling the UI. Pluses and minuses. So there's a bunch of stuff in here on how to kind of translate your iPhone skills into Android tables. And that's it. So I didn't have very much there. Anyway, I hope that was useful to somebody. So there you go.